Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss basic principles of cell injury and adaptations. Into that, a specific topic, that is pathogenesis of cell injury. Right? Here, pathogenesis of cell injury comes under the basic principles of cell injury and adaptations. And myself Dinesh Dangar, and now we will go with the pathogenesis of cell injury. While considering cell injury, generally, any injury to the specific normal cell by one or more of the etiological agents may generally results into the reversible or irreversible cell injury. As I have already explained, and we had a previous videos regarding the reversible cell injury and the irreversible cell injury. So for that in detail, you can refer that or you can go through that specific videos. Here, what could be the the conditions that can lead to the cell injury in terms of etiology? It could be the type, duration, and the severity of specific injuries agent, as well as the type, status, and the adaptability of the specific target cell. Which type of cell is injured, that is important, and even the severity or the the strength of the specific stimulus that may lead to the injury is important. Other than this, we can have some common underlying mechanisms behind the pathogenesis of cell injury. It could be the mitochondrial damage that may lead to the ATP depletion. It could be a cell membrane damage that may disturb the metabolic and the transmembrane exchanges, as well as the releases of the toxic radicals. It could be because of certain morphological changes, and that morphological changes may involve certain biochemicals and the molecular changes that may be underlying this cell injury from the various agents, and may become apparent first and are always associated with the appearance of certain ultrastructural changes. Right, we can see that certain changes in the cell, and that could lead to the the change in their metabolic activity and a kind of stage, and we can term it as a injured cell. Next could be because of the functional implications and certain diseases that can maybe outcome with the specific injury. Here, while coming to the injury, these are the, as you can see here in the diagram or image, there are many injurious stimulus which could lead to the cell injury, and we will have a thorough discussion with each and individual agent. While considering first, that specific injurious stimuli may lead to the decrease in ATP production, which is a source of energy. So there will be a loss of energy dependent cellular functions. It may damage the membrane of the cell, and membrane damage may lead to the mitochondrial dysfunctioning, leading to the cell death. It can act on the lysosomes to liberate those specific content of the lysosome, and as we know that we have studied the lysosome during the first semester human anatomy and physiology, because the lysosomal content may have a pH ranging from 2 to 5, that is too acidic for the cell, and it can lead to the enzymatic digestion of the cellular components, kind of, we can say that, autolysis. Next, membrane damage may lead to the damage into the plasma membrane, and there will be a loss of cellular content and the leakage of the cellular content. Third could be there will be an increase in intracellular entry of the calcium. As we know that there will be entry of calcium, more and more calcium influx can be seen, and it can degrade or break down the proteins, and ultimately that specific reactions may lead to the damage to DNA, or the DNA damage can be seen. Next could be reactive oxygen species. There will be a generation of these kinds of oxygen species, or we can call it as a oxygen free radicals. Right, it could be for hydrogen peroxide, it could be of hydroxyl, it could be of oxygen free radicals, and there will be a generation of these kinds of free radicals. Generally lead to damage proteins, and ultimately there will be a DNA damage. So these are all the injury stimulus and their effects. Now, Starting with the pathogenesis of cell injury. See, there was a first lecture about the introduction of pathology. How exactly pathology differs with the pathogenesis? Actually, both words look similar, but they are not. Here, in case of pathology, we are discussing about a branch, whereas in cases of pathogenesis, that how exactly diseases or disorder progresses, that is what pathogenesis, from starting of the injury to that specific or non-functioning of the cell or the death of the cell, that specific entire period may comes under the pathogenesis. Okay, so try to remember or try to understand what is pathogenesis. Whenever while coming to the GTU, they used to ask, write a note on pathogenesis of reversible cell injury, write a note on pathogenesis of irreversible cell injury. So in this both the cases as well as while coming to the subject, that is pathophysiology, we will have a each and individual time we will have a pathogenesis. That means how disease progresses from the day one to the at the end of the disease or the progression of the disease. After that, there will be a diagnosis. So here, both the factors, while considering reversible cell injury or irreversible injury, we have already studied what is reversible and what is irreversible. In simple terms, reversible involves there will be a reverse manner. It means this automatically or while going with the healing, the normal cell membrane functioning or the normal cell metabolic functioning can be attained, or it will be further regularized. Yes, automatically. Yes, again, it may take time, right? It may take time, but cell may be again in a normal, healthy condition. So, while coming to the reversible cell injury, first factor that involves with the pathogenesis, that is cell membrane damage. Here, always remember one thing. While considering injury, always try to remember these two, ischemia and the hypoxia. Ischemia is what? Interruption of blood supply. So here we are talking about oxygen and those nutrients which is supplied to the cell and tissues. Whereas in the cases of hypoxia, there will be a impaired oxygen supply to the tissues. And now what we are discussing, that is what? Pathogenesis of ischemic and hypoxic injury. In that further there will be a subtopic, that is pathogenesis of reversible cell injury. And in reversible cell injury we will discuss these four specific parameters. Into that, first is cell membrane damage. Cell membrane damage or the damage to the cell membrane can be termed with the or their ultimate effects will be the depletion of ATP, that is adenosine triphosphate. Here, ATP depletion and decreased ATP synthesis are frequently associated with both, that is hypoxic and the chemical or the ischemic injury. Here, ATP is produced in two ways. That how exactly ATP will be formed with the help of oxidative phosphorylation and the glycolytic pathways. Here, effects of ATP depletion 2, it will be less than 5% to 10%. While considering ATP, it involves first parameter, that is the activity of sodium potassium ATPase in the plasma membrane, and it will be reduced. As we know, this specific form, that is sodium potassium ATPase form, it will be present in plasma membrane, which allows to permeate those specific ions, like it could be sodium or potassium. While considering sodium, it enters into the cell, whereas potassium will leave the intracellular compartment. It may reach to the extracellular compartment. Here, there will be an accumulation of sodium, that is intracellularly, and potassium diffuses out of the cell. So, the net gain of the solute is accompanied by the isoosmotic gain of the water and causing cell swelling and the dilation of the endoplasmic reticulum. Here, overall or the net effect will be the decreased generation of cellular ATP. Here in diagram, we can see that, or we will discuss about these two, that is aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Firstly, by aerobic respiration or the oxidative phosphorylation, again it requires, see, oxidative phosphorylation. It means it requires oxygen, where in mitochondria for further protein synthesis, because that ATP that is generated, right, it will be used to form proteins. And the second one, cells may subsequently switch over to the migrate or switch over or migrate to the anaerobic glycolytic oxidation, that is to maintain constant supply of ATP, but it will be done in the absence of oxygen. And here the ATP is generated from the glucose and the glycogen, and again in the absence of oxygen. Here, while considering ischemia, we have a condition, and that specific is mentioned here in diagram. Ischemia, where there will be an interruption in blood supply. The direct effect or the net effect can be seen on mitochondria, where, as we know, that mitochondria is a powerhouse of the cell. Here there will be a reduction in oxidative phosphorylation. Why? Because blood supply is interrupted, and due to that interrupted blood supply, blood is not supplied, and it doesn't mean only blood, because it composed of oxygen as well as those nutrients. So those nutrients and oxygen may not reach to the cell, and cell may switch to the from the aerobic respiration to anaerobic respiration. So here there will be a decrease in ATP formation, so that allows to reduce the activity of sodium pump. So there will be an intracellular accumulation of sodium, as well as there will be a increase influx of calcium, sodium and the water, that can lead to the cellular inflammation, or we can say that the size of the cell may be increased. There will be a increased efflux of potassium, and there will be a endoplasmic reticulum swelling, cellular swelling, and loss of microvilli labs. Next is, in absence of oxygen, cell may switches itself to the anaerobic respiration. So there will be increased in anaerobic glycolysis, that leads to depletion of the glycogen stores. Right? Previously, glycogen was not used in much amounts because there was a presence of oxygen. So mitochondria may have or may utilize this oxygen to form ATP, but now oxygen or the specific blood supply is interrupted. So now there will be a depletion of storage of glycose, and their effect can be seen over, there will be a decrease in pH due to the increased anaerobic glycolysis, which can lead to the clumping of nuclear chromatin. What and all the specific genetic material which is present in nucleus, that may undergo clumping, that is what chromatin. Certain other effects can be seen, like detachment of the ribosomes. Next is, there will be that specific detachment of ribosome can lead to have a decreased protein synthesis, and there will be a deposition of lipids. Next, that is cellular energy metabolism is altered. Yes, obviously it can lead to the have a change in cellular energy metabolism. As we know that there will be a decrease in cellular ATP, there will be a formation of more and more adenosine monophosphate, that which stimulate the phosphofructokinase and the phosphorylase activities. There will be an increased rate of anaerobic glycolysis, that there will be a glycolysis, that means that glycogen may undergo lysis or breakdown. So that is what is anaerobic glycolysis. And why it is anaerobic? Because there will not be a presence of oxygen, so that is anaerobic glycolysis. There will be a depletion of glycogen stores, plus there will be accumulation of those lipids like lactic acid and inorganic phosphate esters. There will be a reduction in intracellular pH, and it could result into the decreased activity of many cellular enzymes. Next one, it could be failure of the calcium pump. Here it leads to the influx of calcium, because that specific calcium pump is failed to control the net movement of the calcium, and it can damage, and their effects can be seen on those cellular specific components. Next effect would be there will be a prolonged or worsening depletion, and there will be a disruption of protein synthetic apparatus, which those specific apparatus, we can say that like machineries, which are used to prepare DNA or the protein material. Here there will be a manifested as a detachment of the ribosomes from the rough endoplasmic reticulum and dissociation of polysomes into the monosomes, because those, as we have studied in first semester, those ribosomes will be present on the endoplasmic reticulum, and so they are called as a rough endoplasmic reticulum, and it can lead to the have a dissociation of the those specific polysomes, right? And those larger globules will get converted into the monosomes. There will be a consequent reduction in the protein synthesis, and it can have irreversible damage to the mitochondrial and the lysosomal membranes, and cell undergoes necrosis. And we have already seen what is necrosis, what is apoptosis, and so for that you can refer previous videos. Next effect could be cells deprived of oxygen or the glucose can lead to have a protein misfolded, or protein may becomes misfolded, and these specific misfolded proteins the triggers a specific cellular reaction that is called as the unfolded protein responses, that can have a cell injury and even cell death. So here, while considering pathogenesis, right, we have started with the first factor, right, that is what the anaerobic glycolysis. Or here, while considering pathogenesis, we need to understand from the step 1 to the step or the up to the last step, right? Here it is a process that how exactly this is progresses, and which are the factors which can have effects on it, and each and individual factors may have a net or different effects on the different cells and the organ system. Next one. So that is all about the first factor while considering, or the first in that reversible cell injury, that is what the factor that is decreased the generation of cellular ATP. So this is what can be seen with the reversible cell injury in pathogenesis of it. Second could be mitochondrial damage. Here almost many portions we have already discussed, okay, but again we will have a thorough discussion on it. The second could be the mitochondrial damage. Here by increasing the cytosolic calcium, or by oxidative stress, or by lipid peroxidation, there will be a mitochondrial damage. This mitochondrial damage can have a formation of high conduction channels, and there will be an increased permeability for that specific mitochondrial. Right? For mitochondrial, permeability may be increased. Reversible in early stage. While considering cell injury, if the stimulus is weak, or the stimulus may not have enough strength to produce or up to an extent or damage, in that cases it can revert back, right? It can be revert back to the early stage, and again mitochondria may have a normal functioning. Here non-selective pore may becomes permanent if the inciting stimuli persist. That means there will be a continuous injury. Next is precluding maintenance of the mitochondrial proton motive forces, or the potential of it. It is also associated with the leakage of cytochrome C into the cytosol, which is an integral component of electron transport chain. Electron transport chain will be present in mitochondria, and from that there will be a release of that specific cytochrome C, and it can trigger the apoptic death pathways in cytosol. That is what automatic lysis of the cell or cell death. Here it is depicted out with the help of image. While considering the movement of cytochrome C, here as you can see that radical round projections, right, that is your cytochrome C. Here there will, due to the decreased production of ATP, that specific cytochrome C and H plus will move out from the the inner structure or inner structure of the mitochondria, and it may reaches into the cytosol, and that can lead to have a apoptosis or the programmed cell death. Third, that is influx of intracellular calcium and the loss of calcium homeostasis. Here, calcium even will have a role into it. Here, calcium ions are important mediators of the cell injury. Generally, cytosolic calcium is maintained at extremely low concentration, that is less than 0.1 micromole. In cases of injury, it may be increased inside. While considering the intracellular and intracellular level will be less than 0.1 micromole, whereas in the cases of extracellular, it will be 1.3 micromole. Here, most intracellular calcium is sequestered into the mitochondria and endoplasmic reticulum, and it modulated by the membrane associated to it and the energy-dependent calcium magnesium ATPases. Ischemia and certain toxins can cause an early increase in the cytosolic calcium concentration. It interferes with those calcium channels, so that calcium channel may not have a control on the move in and move out of the calcium, and owing to the net influx of calcium across the plasma membrane, and there will be a release of calcium from the mitochondria and endoplasmic reticulum too in cytosol. So there will be a sustained increase in intracellular calcium, and it is non-specific increases in membrane permeability. Fourth reason, or the pathogenesis, that is accumulation of oxygen derived free radicals, that is what oxidative stress. While considering oxidative stress, again a kind of injurious agents or the etiological factor behind the intracellular or the injury that may happen into the while considering cardiac muscles or the nerve muscles or the that is neurons, right? While considering neurons, here cell generates the energy by converting molecular oxygen to water, but small amount of partially reduced reactive oxygen forms are produced as a byproduct, that is known as reactive oxygen species. It will be freely move or available in the cytosol, and that freely movable or the rendering oxygens can damages even cellular membrane as well as the protein synthesis. Imbalances between free radical generating and the radical scavenging systems can lead to have a oxidative stress. In normal individual cases, body or each individual cell will have a free radical scavenging activity that can neutralizes those freely movable or freely available oxygen radical or any other kinds of radicals. And for that, most probably you have heard about the antioxidants. And while considering food that may have a rich amount or may have a maximum amount of those antioxidants are fruits, right? So that is the basic reason behind that, how exactly, and the exact reason behind consuming fruits, right? So fruits will have a high amount of antioxidants, and it is essential in our regular diet to have a that specific fruits that can have a free radical scavenging activities or the systems. Here it contributes to the chemical and the radiation injury. It can lead to have a ischemia reperfusion injury and cellular aging as well as in microbial killing by the phagocytosis. Here, instability of free radicals render other molecules also to be free radicals and propagate the chain of damage. Here, the only difference between that oxygen molecule and free radical molecule of oxygen is that those free radical molecules may not have a stability or they are unstable, and that specific nature can damages the specific cell and their intracellular organelles. Okay, so that is all about reversible cell injury. Next, now moving on with the next point, that is irreversible cell injury. Here, in case of irreversible cell injury, the major factor is the etiologic factor, right, or the cause. or the stimulus or the injurious stimuli, where it will be or it will have a persistence nature. That means there will be a continuation of injury. Like we will have an example of cellular aging, or chronic alcoholism, where person may have a alcohol, or alcohol on a regular intervals, so that it may happen that because of that specific alcohol may reaches to the liver for the further metabolism, and it can damages those hepatic cells. Here, persistence of ischemia or hypoxia results into the irreversible damage to the structure and function of the cell, ultimately leading to the cell death. Here, that specific persistence of ischemia or hypoxia is due to the continuous administration of that specific injurious stimulus, or person may come into contact with that specific injurious stimuli, very same time in many of frequencies. Here, the stage at which this point of no return, or we can say that irreversible, right? In cases of reversibility, or in cases of reversible manner, person may not have again the contact with the the same injury stimuli. Whereas here, in cases of irreversible, person used to have a frequent administration of those toxic agents or toxic substances through any part, through digestive system, or through a respiratory system, right? So here there is no point or no question about the coming back to the or revert back to the normal condition. So here it is the point of no return, or the irreversibility is reached from the reversible cell injury, and is again unclear, but the sequence of events is continuation of reversible cell injury, right? So that we can, that how exactly we can define these two, reversible and irreversible, on the basis of their nature, right? On the nature of the basically that specific stimulus. As well as here there will be, in cases of irreversible cell injury, there will be a continuous reversible cell injury. Here, two essential phenomena that may always distinguish this irreversible from the reversible cell injury. That is what we have already discussed. That is the inability of the cells to reverse the mitochondrial dysfunction on reperfusion or reoxygenation. So cell may not become healthy again. Disturbance in cell membrane function in general, and in plasma membrane in particular. Here, while considering pathogenesis of irreversible cell injury, we need to discuss these five. That is calcium influx, activated phospholipases, intracellular proteases, activated endonucleases, and the lysosomal hydrolytic enzymes. Here, while considering to the calcium influx, that specific the influx of calcium damages the mitochondria, right? So there will be a because of that specific continued hypoxia, there will be a large amount of calcium may be influxed, and it especially after the reperfusion of the irreversibly injured cell. Here, excess intracellular calcium may be collected in the mitochondria, disabling its function. Second point, that is activated phospholipases, and that activated phospholipases may damage its membrane, right? Here, the damage to the membrane function in general and plasma membrane in particular is the most important event in irreversible cell injury. Here, there will be an increased cytosolic influx of calcium in the cell that activates phospholipases. This, in turn, degrades membrane phospholipids, right? Those phospholipids which are present in membrane will be degraded by the phospholipases. So here also we can consider calcium as a factor. Here, in cases of intracellular proteases, there will be a cytoskeletal damage. It means those specific segment that may involve with the cytoskeleton of the cell may undergo damages, like microfilaments, next is microtubules, and the intermediate filaments of each. Here again it will be damaged, and again further it will be activated by the intracellular proteases, or by certain physical effects of the cell swelling, may produces irreversible cell membrane injury. Fourth point, that is activated endonucleases. This specific activation of endonucleases may damage nuclear. So here DNA or nucleoprotein are damaged ultimately, and this specific damage can activate the lysosomal enzymes like proteases and the endonucleases. Fifth and last point in pathogenesis of irreversible cell injury, that is lysosomal hydrolytic enzymes, that is lysosomal damage, cell death, and the phagocytosis. Here, while considering certain hydrolytic enzymes like hydrolase, RNase, DNase, protease, glycosidase, next is phosphatase, lipase, amylase, cathepsin, etc. Here, while coming to the activation of these hydrolytic enzymes, it will may lead to the enzymatic digestion of that specific cellular components, and that enzymatic digestion of the cellular components can lead to have a cell death, and the dead cell is again eventually replaced by the masses of phospholipids, and they are called as a myelin figures, which are again either phagocytosized by the macrophages, or there may be a formation of calcium salts. So today what we had a discussion on the pathogenesis of cell injury, in that while considering reversible cell injury and the irreversible cell injury. While considering a reversible cell injury, it could be because of decreased generation of cellular ATP, which damaged by ischemia from the interruptions versus the hypoxia from other causes. Next, we had a discussion on the intracellular lactic acidosis, that is what nuclear clumping. Next is the damage to plasma membrane forms, that is because of the hydropic swelling, and that can lead to have a hydropic swelling or the cellular swelling and the other membrane changes, as well as the reduced protein synthesis. Whereas in the cases of irreversible cell injury, we had a discussion on calcium influx, activated phospholipases, intracellular proteases, activated endonucleases, and the lysosomal hydrolytic enzymes. And again, today I want to convey one message for this. Actually, see, these videos are prepared to supplement the education in fields of pharmacy, and for that further, if you wish to have a notification for these specific channels and the videos regarding the human anatomy, physiology, pathophysiology, and the pharmacology, I kindly request all of you to subscribe my channel, that is Pharmacological Talks. And after subscribe, there will be a button, that is bell, right? Press that bell button so that you will receive each and individual notification for the videos as I upload on the channel. Okay, thank you very much.